everybody. Welcome back to LitTube. We have a brand new episode of Face to Face. Actually, in fact, me and Justin haven't done a joint face to face in quite some time. And social distancing has pushed us back to where we all began. So we're going to talk about the coronavirus tonight, give a little bit of an update, and just break down some stats for you. So I'm just going to get into the numbers. I like numbers, so we're just going to get right down to it. And here are some stats from the CDC. Right now, the total global cases, 1,413,415. In the U.S., we have 392,285. Right now, actively, amongst active cases in the world, there are 1,033,826. In the U.S., 392,285. Fatalities, sadly, worldwide, there are 81,200. In the U.S., there are 21,368. But on the bright side, recovery cases worldwide, 298,389. And in the U.S., amongst recovered cases, positively amongst recovered cases, we have worldwide 298,389. And in the U.S., more than over 100,000 people have recovered. Now, this virus is unlike anything any of us have ever seen. The way it affects people, virtually eating away at the lungs, causing heart problems. And again, it's shown that it's not so much just a threat to older people. There are younger people, especially in our age range, within the late 20s to, 40s that are getting it and actually falling seriously ill to it as well. Lots of states have been down on lockdown orders. Like Maryland, we are in a stay-at-home order where we can only leave to go to work or go to the store, and that's considered essential, travel. And you're also
We're more or less under house arrest.
Yeah, essentially under house arrest. We work from home. We stay at home all day. I can't tell you when the last time I left my house to go to, outside of going to like the grocery store, Me and my wife, we did walk around our neighborhood last night, but yeah, it's been crazy. You're told to practice social distancing, but everybody is, most of the jobs in the U.S., because they're scared of the economy falling apart, are considered essential. It's crazy.
Well, and let me touch on that for a second. I'm planning on doing another video with a friend of mine later that we're going to dig really deep on the economic impact of this, but I will just say that if you look at what happened in the Great Depression, you had an unemployment rate of 25%. I think we're going to exceed that, because you're talking about all these businesses being forced to close up, all these people getting laid off, all these people applying for unemployment. Now, hopefully it's a temporary thing and everyone will just get their jobs back, but I think it's going to be really bad in terms of the unemployment number for a while here.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how long this goes, and that's also the other thing. No one knows when this is gonna end. Like my job, our schedules update every 2 weeks, and we've currently been home. At least they sent my office home 3 weeks ago. There's no end in sight. No one knows when this is gonna blow. Originally, I remember the word was end of April, and here we are almost mid-April, and most school systems in the U.S. are shut down. So there's no telling when this is gonna end. So the longer this goes, the worse it gets on an economy, especially for businesses, more importantly, small businesses that may not be able to recover from this. Places like, banks, obviously, they're not going to close. Fast food, they're open. A lot of big corporations, they'll be okay, but small businesses are going to be very hurt come November. And again, you and me, historically, we're known to do political videos here at LitTube. That's going to play a huge part in the election come November, and that's going to be jobs, because the economy is going to be hurt. And we're not going to sit here and make it politicized about who's the fault. No, it is what it is. It's just coronavirus. A virus ran rampant through our planet. And now I feel like we're in for a long ride, dude.
Yeah, but I mean, without getting too political with it, you do see there's been other countries that have been better positioned to handle this.
100%.
You think about, South Korea, Taiwan, some of those Asian countries that have already experienced other things like this, maybe not to this magnitude, but they've had other like epidemics in their area that they've had to respond to. And so you notice that those countries immediately, everyone had their masks on and their gloves on when they went out in public. They were testing everybody. Like, it was a much different response than what you see like here, you know? So that's one thing that I would just like to point out. You know, I think this is going to be a wake up call for the United States. Also the fact that, you know, we have less hospital beds per capita compared to a lot of the developed countries out there. So we were just much more in a much worse position to handle this. Now, I guess the one plus side for us is that not our entire country is like urbanized. Like, you know, our coasts are very built up and urbanized, but like the whole center of the country, I think, is relatively protected because everything's spread out as everything is. But yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned after this.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the way we live life is going to change. I think if you look at the Midwest, if you look at, for example, West Virginia was one of the last states to actually report a case. Now, there are a lot of theories on what could have led to that. There's the fact that West Virginia probably just didn't have the infrastructure to be able to test and be able to properly report. But then there's also the other theory of the fact that West Virginia is one of the most rural states in the Union, very isolated by the Appalachian Mountains. You know, it's not a very high populous place. And again, that, like you said, the middle of the country is pretty solid. I mean, yes, the virus is everywhere. I mean, it's in every single state. It's a national emergency. It's a pandemic. It's a global issue. But I think the metro areas, Philly, New York, DC, Baltimore, LA, out west, they're going to be hard hit. And I'm not optimistic 100% on what it's going to look like economically afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to be good, but I will say I do actually like how Larry Hogan has responded to this. I think he's been really on
100%.
top of the ball. You know, we look at how the DMV area is positioned right now. It's getting pretty bad here too, but he was right on top of everything with, like, you know, the stay-at-home orders and shutting down the essential businesses, and he wasn't playing around with this. So I give props to him on that. Now, I also want to talk about like how people should cope with this, because now we are going to be staying at home for who knows how long, could be months. And I would just say to people that are feeling like they're depressed or you know, whatever, maybe they're, you know, extroverts that can't stand being indoors, you know, what have you. I think at a time like this, you have to focus on, you know, doing things that are productive. You know, you don't want to get stuck in that trap where all you're doing every day is like eating cookies in your bed and watching Netflix. Like, think about what can you be doing that's productive? Could you be reading a book to expand your knowledge? Could you be, you know, maybe studying a language on an app? Could you be working on a side business? Like, there's other things you can be doing with your time besides just, you know, watching shows and playing video games. So I would just encourage everyone to kind of look at what they can be doing that's productive at a time like this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you said it best, actually, and I believe it was I think it was my Super Bowl party. Yeah, and you said it. You were like, you got to be on your purpose, you know. And last week, I mean, me personally, I'll admit, last week was rough, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the fact that the weather was terrible. It was cold. It was rainy. And, you know, I'm stuck in the house, and it's starting to hit me like, oh, crap, here we are. This is like a real thing. But I remember waking up Monday. I was just like, nah, man, like, I need it to occupy my time. I need to be on my purpose. I need to be doing things. And that's honestly the best way to get through this. Now, again, not everybody is at a state where, you know, they can do that. I get that. And there's no pressure or anything. But, you know, just keep yourself occupied, keep yourself busy, because when you're just sitting there alone thinking about this crap, I mean, it's no secret. The world it's gone crazy. It's not getting crazy. It is crazy. And we just have to do our best, really, to, you know, get through this. I mean, video conferencing, thank God that blew up. Because now you get to see your friends on camera. You can, you know, patch in, see your family and stuff like that. So there's stuff that's cool like that. But you gotta protect that brain.
Yeah, but the last thing I'll touch on, I mean, maybe you want to talk about more stuff related to this, but I mean, I think to a certain extent, the two of us are kind of in a bubble in the sense that we both still have steady work at the moment. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there that have lost their job or are about to lose their job. And you feel for them and you got to think like, how are they going to be able to recover from this? I've seen the kind of like, I guess you would call them like stimulus bills that came out of the federal government,
Yeah.
but they don't seem to be like overly helping the working class. I mean, there is like that was it like $1,200 you get, but like we don't even know when we're gonna get it. I mean, it's just like I don't know. Like I think that whole response to that kind of got bungled. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, it's very hard because, on one hand, you can't shut the whole country down. And actually, I'm going to take that back. You can shut the whole country down. And it is sad that we don't have a system in place where we can let most of the workers go and just keep the money flowing. And I get it. You got to turn revenue. You got to have product and this, that, and the other. I get those things. But at some point, we have to stop thinking about money and start thinking about the human. And the fact of the matter is, there's not enough financial security for people to be able to take off and protect themselves. There's a lot of people with jobs that if they don't work, that's it. $1,200. What did they say? It's $1,200 a month, or is it? It's not a week, right?
It's like what they approved was like a one-time payment. Now I think the caveat is like you can go and get unemployment, right?
Yeah,
So there's still like unemployment's on the table, but like I know in the case of like my brother, because I talked to him, like it's not going to really amount to much, and like
yeah,
ultimately he's probably going to still have to like put certain things on the credit card until he like gets actual money coming in. So like there's going to be a lot of people that are in that type of situation where, and a lot of people in this country live paycheck to paycheck
yeah.
anyways. So then it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess you're just going to be you're just going to be overloading yourself with credit card debt until this thing blows by.
But the thing also, and I remember I've been watching a lot of what the rest of the world's doing and how they react to this and stuff like that. And you look at what happened in Italy. Now, Italy is one of the hardest places hit by this virus. It's actually insanely impressive how hard it hit Italy, especially given its proximity away from China. But that also shows just how fast this virus moves. But China, Italy locked it down, and then they canceled all mortgages. I think they canceled rent and stuff like that. It would be nice to see America do something like that for everyday Americans. It really would. It would be nice if people knew that they could, not only stress about the fact that there's a virus that you can't see, that you can get virtually from touching just metal. You touch a banister, if you don't wash your hands fast enough, you get it. So that's on your mind. And then you're talking about the fact that if I do get sick and I have to take off for work for 2 weeks or however long, I'm not going to get paid. Like I'm losing a lot of money to do that. And that's just a crazy, place that I feel like America's in. And I think as one of the most developed countries in the world, we should have something in place to take care of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a single perfect solution to this problem we find ourselves in. There's definitely positives and negatives to everything, but I would say that throughout history, this country, I feel like, has always put like businesses and just like, political chess games over like actual people's lives and like, and that sort of thing. So I
Yep.
think that, if we're going to end up spending a lot of money on this, it should go to actually helping regular people.
I
That
agree
should be like
100%.
the foremost uh, goal in all of this from the government, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, we really have to start investing in our people and not so much these big businesses. I mean, even when you start, and I'm not going to get too much into the bill, but even when you looked at it just on the surface level, like, okay, Americans get a $1,200 payment and all these big businesses are getting all these $1 billion bailouts. I mean, it's almost a slap in the face and really showed you where the priorities are.
Yeah, and it's not even just that. It's like there's not really a whole lot of oversight into where that money's going to end up going. So
Oh,
it's
no,
kind
not
of
at all.
like Trump and Mnuchin can kind of like pick their favorites in terms of like which businesses are going to get help.
Pretty much.
I mean,
Pretty
ultimately,
much.
that's kind of what it boils down to if you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know where this is going to go. I mean, every day you wake up honestly hoping that there's some good news out there, but yeah, it just seems like it gets worse and worse. Still, I did see that there is a decline in new cases. Now, you're talking about a difference of maybe 100. There's 100 less new cases compared to the fact that there is a total of 500 still new cases. You know, I forget where it was, and it was an article I was reading. But it's like, you know, you're clapping at that's great that, you know, less people are getting sick, but then it's also stops and thinks. It's like there's still hundreds of people getting sick every day, hundreds of new cases, and that's just crazy scary.
Well, and I also think another reason it's going to be hard to slow the curve here compared to those other countries I mentioned is like, let's face it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there in this country that are downplaying this or just straight up acting like it doesn't even exist. And it's just like, I don't understand that mindset, but it's to the detriment of everybody else that actually can easily die from this. I mean, you also have to consider that if you get to the point where you're put on a ventilator, your chances of surviving are what, like 20%? Like, it's pretty damn low. So, I mean, like, you just feel for those people, and you wish everyone would kind of get on the same page with this.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning of all of this, you had this, you know, a lot of talk where it's like, this was like, and I hate to say this, but they called it the boomer doomer because most of the people being affected were boomers, you know? And so you saw all these videos of like all these Gen Zs, you know, these younger kids, they're out at spring break, all these college kids having fun. Because in their mind at the time, people were saying, well, you're not going to get hurt. But the problem is it can carry with you. You know, you may not show any symptoms, but you're still carrying the virus. You could give it to someone that, like my mother, who's a diabetic, or my dad, who has heart disease, someone like that. You can give them that virus simply by just touching them, even though you don't show the virus. Now, there's also another angle to that because a lot of people that are forced to work have this mindset of, well, shit, if I'm going to get it, I'm probably going to get it at work. What's it matter if I'm doing whatever afterward? And again, I understand where that comes from. Again, me and you are in a bubble where we are allowed to work from home, where we don't have to go to work, essentially. You know, we don't have to leave the house. We are able to properly quarantine. And there are a lot of people that don't. A lot of people that work construction or postal work or, you know, work in the fast food industry or even, sadly, in grocery stores and in the medical business. So you can't, not business, medical field, you can't not talk about them. But we just have to, in our heads, tell ourselves, work, home, grocery stores. That's it. Because if not, then this is just going to continue and we'll be spending Thanksgiving via Zoom.
Yeah, and I would just have to also chip in, you know, hats off to the grocery workers and the people who are on the front lines of healthcare. I mean, without them, I mean, we'd really be screwed, wouldn't we?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. I remember, you know, there was a lot of ridicule of like the younger generations. And I'm not saying that all grocery workers are young kids, but a lot of them are. A lot of them are high school age. And a lot of ones like my nephew who, you know, he's a senior this year, and, you know, they were just told that they're not going to have their prom, and, you know, it's still up in the air about graduation, and we're hoping for the best. But, I mean, it's just sacrifices across the board, and it's just sad when you get really down to it on a personal level. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we also have to analyze here is that, you know, there's been a lot of there's some skeptics to this that they're downplaying it and continue to downplay it. And I think one of the things they point to is, oh, well, there's only been X amount of deaths so far compared to H1N1 and blah, 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 blah. But I don't think what they're considering is that, like, how this is spreading and that there's supposed to be like a second wave coming to hit us. Like, I think there's a lot of unknowns right now because we haven't been testing everybody and all that.
Exactly.
So it's really too early to call it and try to like downplay.
Yeah, I mean, you can't afford to downplay something like this. And I hate the internet generation. You know, it's virtually like virtually everybody that connects to the internet nowadays. And there's just such a flow of false information and all these weird, crazy conspiracy theories. Like, now I work in IT, and I work for Verizon, you know, who deals in this. But, you know, people were on the internet saying that 5G towers are causing the virus, and that there's reports now that in England that they're burning all the 5G cell towers. I'm like, are you guys fucking idiots? Like, really? Cell towers creating a respiratory virus? Like, pick up a science book, will you? Like, that makes no sense. I could get it if you had some type of radiation sickness. Okay, that's a little bit more believable. This is a respiratory virus. Like, come on.
And I've heard people, and it's mostly on like the conservative side of the spectrum, but I've heard
Oh,
people
boy.
saying like the CDC and the World Health Organization are like socialist organizations and you can't trust them. And it's just like, I don't understand like who's coming up with this bullshit.
And again, we don't want to get too political in this video, but again, this is face to face. This is our pain piece. This is where we talk how we want to talk and say what we want. But it goes back to the president downplaying this in the beginning. The president thought that this would be fine. And then there was reports a couple of weeks ago. He's like, oh, we should be open by Easter. Hello, Easter is less than a week away, and we're no further away from opening than we ever have been. So again, when your president is downplaying this to a point where in the beginning that, essentially the reason why it probably is going so crazy is because we didn't act fast enough. Of course, the fan base, as I call them, I don't even call them the political base, I call them the fan base. They're out here spewing that. They're repeating it. They're downplaying because, again, their president made it seem not a big deal. So, I mean, when you have countries like Italy shutting down and, China, virtually a lot of its metropolitan areas shutting down, and Japan and Korea, all these places shutting down, that's a big deal. There's no way to downplay that. And the fact that anybody could even buy into any of the downplaying that was going on in the beginning is a fool, is an idiot.
But that's the other thing about it that's crazy to me is like if you go and you compare, if you go back and you look at like what Trump was saying and what Fox News was saying in early March and you compare it to what they're saying now, it's like a total like 180. But then like there's still people out there that are like conservatives and like still like haven't changed their position, even though like the president has and the conservative news networks have. Like I don't get it. Like it's like some people just get stuck in their own like viewpoint and like can't change it.
Well, it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning about mental health, and there's a big mental health aspect to this. A lot of people can't cope with this, point blank and simple. A lot of people, and it's nothing that it says that you're weak. I mean, you're told to go in isolation and virtually not live the life that you're allowed, that you are used to living. You're told that there's an unforeseen amount of time that we could be on lockdown. So what does your brain do? A lot of people's brains will go, all right. There's some that will go, all right, well, this is how it has to be. Let's hope for the best, and we'll go from there. There's other people that are just trying their best to get through the day. And then there's other people that are trying to downplay it, because I think at the end of the day, there's the ones that have to work, and then there's the ones like the political pundits you were talking about that their brains, I don't think, can handle this. So their defense mechanism is to downplay it so that they don't freak out as much as they probably would be if otherwise, not checked.
Yeah, and one other thing I would ask people to consider in this, because there's a lot of people that want to talk like, oh, is the economic impact going to be worse than like the other aspect of this? I'm going to say, well, no, because, I mean, look, I'm someone that has investments. Like I have a retirement portfolio. I invested in individual stocks, some of which got crushed. But at the end of the day, what's more important, like losing money or like staying alive?
Yeah.
Like I'd much rather lose my money and like not have to be put on a ventilator with a 20% chance to live. So
exactly. I like being able to breathe under my own control. So I'm not, if I had to not work or not make money for however long you needed to be, if that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. I mean, I'm a diabetic, so, my mindset is a little bit different than a lot of people's because I'm at risk, apparently. Mind blown, right? But, I remember my doctor saying that because I'm a diabetic, I'm at risk, and it scared me. It literally did scare me, and I think I spent a lot of the time last week actually freaked out a lot of it thinking about just all this stuff where I had to just take a break Sunday and just log off and just kind of get my head back. But, yeah, I mean, it's terrifying, and if I had to choose between life or, however much my paycheck is every week, no, I'm going to choose life.
yeah, I mean, and look, I mean, we're not here to try to fear monger
No,
or anything,
exactly.
but look, I mean, you just got to look around you at a certain point and be like, okay, you know, all the state governments seem to be taking this super seriously. The CDC is, you got all these businesses that are closing and taking it seriously. And it's just like, you know, at a certain point, if you're in the minority with all this, you have to ask yourself, well, like, what do I know that all these other people don't?
Yeah. I mean, again, I do feel for the people that have to work that, you know, don't have a choice. That's terrible. That's a terrible place to be put in, where half your mind is like, crap, here I go risking my life about something I can't even see. And then, you know, then it's just the other people that just don't even care. And it's like, it's just a weird place to be in American history, man. When they write about this in the history books, man, that's going to be wild.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, I think, of lessons learned and people looking back on this in history. You know, might be looking at the economic impact of this, the health impact of this, how did we respond? We'll have to let the history books judge, but we're just in the here and now trying to report on things as we see it, and that's all we can really do.
Yeah, so we're going to be LitTube, at least through this. We're still here. We're still kicking ass. We found a way to make videos work. So, I mean, we're going to continue to bring content. Again, like Justin has a video coming out, hopefully talking more of an economical piece, because that is a big, again, we could say what we want to say, but economics, that's a big part of this, you know. So Justin's going to be covering that. We'll be the draft is coming up, so we should be able to cover that. And again, we'll be keeping you updated with the virus and just the ways of the world. But thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and make sure to stay tuned for more. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah, and go ahead and leave us a comment so we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, let's keep this convo going. We ain't got nothing else to do. Let's continue talking. Let's do this. All right, take care.